I recently just transitioned from a garage shop full of tools to full-time traveling, living out of a fifth wheel camper, full-time on the road. And in this video, I'm going to go back to how I started years ago with free wood building console tables. This picture right here is one of the first things I ever built woodworking. Just a simple rustic console table out of free pallet wood. And although this picture was probably 8 years ago, all through my woodworking journey, I have continued building these small tables, console tables, entryway tables, accent tables, sofa tables, whatever you want to call them. And the reason being, simply put, they sell great and they're easy to build. And if you find the right pallets, they supply you with all the wood you need for the table. Now, in a perfect pallet world, there's 3 things I look for when searching for them. I prefer the slats to be at least 3/4 in thickness. I like the runners to be thicker than your standard 2x4. And I prefer hardwood. Unfortunately, the perfect pallet world does not care what I want. But in this instance, I did get 2 out of the 3, which is pretty good. The slats were 3/4 inch thick, and the runners were 4x material. But I was still dealing with pine. I don't hate pine. There is much better wood out there for furniture, but this was free, so I'll take it. If you decide you do want to make this though, of course use any kind of wood you want. My best seller when I used to make these all the time was cherry. I am finding out woodworking on the road definitely comes with its own number of challenges. First of all, I obviously do not have a shop. I work at whichever RV park I'm at, whatever campsite, and usually that changes weekly. None of my tools are set up like they used to be. I basically pull my tools out of storage and I try to put my kids in storage for a little bit. It keeps them busy for a little while. Another thing is, I'm obviously very limited in the lumber I can store. This is not necessarily a bad thing though. I work with what I have, and since I can't store it, I don't get a giant scrap wood pile that accumulates like I used to. So basically, any scraps I do get goes for firewood in the campfire. So that's a win-win for me. With any table build, I like to start with the top. And in this case, without a jointer, I won't be able to get a seamless glue up. So maybe a table saw joiner jig will be something in the coming future. But for now, this is going to be a rustic piece, so it's going to be okay. You explaining to them how to do it? Tell them, say this goes there. We're going to screw this together. Right, dude? For this one, I just pocket hold them together just to keep the top intact while I built the rest. Alright, now it's time to see what this battery operated table saw can do. This is my first time ever using it, so I have no idea what to expect. But we're going to be really putting it to the test because we're going to be ripping down those really big pieces for the legs. And here we came to another challenge of no shop. Okay, now before I can even test it, I'm getting rained on. Oh. Just as quickly as I got my tools out, my parade got rained on. Now, I'm not complaining as I'm from upstate New York, and upstate New York in this time of the year is very cold, but it does rain a lot in Florida this time of the year, I can tell you that. The next day was much better though, and I was finally able to test out the battery operated tools. And honestly, I was quite impressed with how these performed. They state that they have corded power, and they're not joking. It went through those thick runner pieces that I had to rip down, no problem. It's great how awesome these battery tools have came the last decade or so, but there is still a few things I'm getting used to. Battery. I did that more times than I would like to admit during this project. As I said earlier, these tables are for the most part pretty easy to make. You have 3 components. You have the top, the aprons, and you have the table legs. The key to these though is to make the components look all proportional to one and the other. For example, the width of the aprons can drastically change the whole look of the finished product. So you can play around with that to suit the look you want. But if you do like this style, I do have plans and the exact cut list available in the description. Now, I realize pallet wood is not really for everyone, and it was at this point here I was getting a little skeptical of how it would turn out. But you gotta remember, some people absolutely love this stuff. Whether it's the recycled aspect of it, the rustic look, people love this reclaimed wood. But I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye out for some nice hardwood for a project coming up. So if anyone knows of any good hardwood dealers around Central or Southern Florida, be sure to let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate it. And then if you love pallet builds, be sure to let me know that as well. Working from the road at these RV parks has become quite common in the past 5 years or so. But when you think of work from the road or work remotely, you think of a laptop and a phone. You do not think of woodworking tools and a camera on a tripod recording you. So I occasionally get some weird looks or curious people, but it's fun. I enjoyed building this one and recording it, and I'm definitely looking forward to more and sharing more videos of woodworking on the road. So if it's your first time here and you're into that, definitely consider subscribing and following along for more. I do still have some improving and smoothing out to do on a few things though. And I gotta get used to that part. But we'll get there. A few people asked me in my previous video if I did in fact sell all of my tools from my old garage shop. And basically, yeah, I pretty much sold everything. I did keep my cordless tools as well as my Festool tools though. I did make the mistake though of not bringing my Festool tools with me, so they are in storage for when I do settle back down and build out a shop. And during this project, I am definitely missing my Festool sander. I'm not saying this Milwaukee one's bad, but it does not compare at all to the Festool one. And as for my larger tools, like my table saw, my planer, when I do settle down, I'm looking to upgrade to more like commercial grade tools rather than hobbyist tools for when I build out a new shop. When finishing reclaimed wood, 9 times out of 10, I usually stain it. The reason being is that when you make a fresh cut on aged wood, it is much lighter than the naturally distressed part. Wood naturally darkens with age, so when you make a fresh cut, for instance when ripping down the table legs, exposes the raw wood that has not been subject to the elements, so it's much lighter. So staining usually blends them all together, and it makes your fresh cuts not stick out like a sore thumb. I also usually like to have my fresh cut pieces face in. So the show faces are showing the character of the aged wood. And as you can see from this clip, I made the mistake of putting it together, one of the table legs with the fresh cut sticking out. And it's pretty noticeable. Also with that said, from my experience, reclaimed wood tends to absorb a lot more stain. So even with your lighter stain colors, it's gonna stain darker. So I do try to use a lighter colored stain. Here, I used golden oak. As for a top coat over the stain, I used water-based poly. It's definitely far from my favorite finish. I would have preferred a hard wax oil. But for going over stain and for me being in my circumstances, it was readily available and it dries quickly, so I could finish a project in a day. You do need to be careful though when brushing this, as it tends to leave brush strokes if you're not quick enough. And now for the reveal. What started with some free pallets, I was actually quite happy with how this came out. Now, is it my favorite piece I ever built? Absolutely not. But it did bring me back to my beginning days of building with pallet wood. And I think the coolest part about it is you're making something out of nothing when it comes to pallets. You're taking a pallet that more than likely would have been burnt. Some people say you should have just burned it, but you are creating something useful out of that, which I've always thought that was pretty cool. I did build a couple little desk areas for me and my wife in the back of our fifth wheel camper. We have a toy hauler, and our bed raises up and down, so when we raise up our bed at night, there's a couple desks under there for us to work on our computers and stuff. So I mocked up this little table to my desk, and it kind of created a little L desk, so gives me a little extra desk space, and I really don't mind it there. So I probably will not be selling this one. I might just use it for that. But like I said, I never had any problem selling these kind of tables. They're definitely in high demand. And then if you want to get more advanced with them, I've made them where you can add drawers, you add lower shelves. People just love them. I do have plans available in the description, as I said, for this same one if you're interested. So be sure to check that out. And as always, I guys hope you enjoyed it. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.